Hey tubers, welcome back for another adventure. You are looking at a 1986 Honda TRX 250. Probably this 250cc is the second most common engine I have floating around in the horde. The first most common is the 200cc version, whether it's an electric start like that guy or a pull start like a 200S. I guess that guy. So for some reason I remember this thing as a 200 TRX 200, not a 250. So given that I don't quite remember it as well as I'd like to, I need to find out what's going on with this thing, what kind of shape it's in, then I can make a decision what to do. I have a lot of parts floating around, so it wouldn't be a bad thing if this thing came back to life. Starting right at the beginning, the dashboard is here and the wiring looks intact, including the two CDIs, the one rev limiter and the other guy that actually provides the spark. Carburetor's here, though it's got the aftermarket hose clamp. That's still alive. The shifter is not welded, which is good, though the end looks like it rotted off. It looks like it had an air cleaner. Somebody borrowed the back hubs. I don't do that, so I must have bought it that way. Exhaust system looks intact, including the heat guards and the whole bit. I mean, this is another aftermarket clamp, and the heat guard is off. It does have some of the red death on top, and it looks like that's not proper. It should have flange bolts. So somebody's fooled around here a bit. Whoever worked on it, though, I think they kind of wanted to bring it back to life, right? Normally when you capture the hardware like that, that's a good sign. It does have your Briggs & Stratton, your tractor type thing there. And God, that battery looks like a dog was chewing on it. Still does have the plastic basket that it sits in. So this thing has great potential. At some point I worked on this. That looks like me. Anyway, let's see if we have compression if this thing has. So here we are. So there you go. Sounds like it's got some compression or something behind it. Let's put some juice to the electric starter. Jump pack action here. Oh God, that sounds bad. These engines, these 250s, have two weaknesses. Weakness number one, for the older ones, they did not support the shaft very well. So if you had a hard starter, as time passed, the shaft would begin to weeble wobble and it would chew up the gears. The way they fixed it is they put a bearing out here, and that made things better, but they didn't do that until late 86, early 87. The second problem with these things is as the gears got chewed up and you went back to the Kickstarter, or while the gears were being chewed up, they had a tendency to stick to the magnets on the inside of the flywheel and then get wedged between the flywheel and the stator and do horrible damage. It would just literally eat the flywheel alive where the magnets are, the inside of the flywheel, and it would just shred the stator. That, when you put those numbers together, and depending on the year of your all-terrain vehicle, like given that that has two coils, two CDI units, this is more of a newer one. For the newer ones, the stators are available. You got to match the flywheel and the stator. You have Denzai's and MTI's or Mitsubishi's and Denzai's. I don't recall which one is the newer one, but you got to match the right stator to the right flywheel, because the stators are bigger. So if you put the wrong flywheel on it as you're tightening it up, it gets seized. It seizes in there. It becomes a press fit. And if you go the other way, you have too much spacing between the flywheel and the pulse generator, and they don't run right. So you got to match your flywheel and stator. The stator, assuming you don't kill your flywheel, and in this case it's a newer one, is about 150, and by the time you get done with the starter gears on this guy and a new starter, because you got to replace it all at once, it's very easy to tie up another couple $100. So let's assume the stator's okay. I'm still looking at a couple $100 for this thing, just to get it running, and that's before the other details. These engines are worth $500, $600, $700, $800 on eBay by the time you get it home, right, by the time you pay postage. But unfortunately, it might be worth more in parts. The only real way to determine this is to do a compression test on it. Let's see what's going on. Now, given that neither starter seems all that healthy, why don't we start right off by checking the valves. Whoa. Well, that one's slappy tappy loose. Somebody didn't put a bolt on there. I already broke these loose, by the way. Yeah, that just don't look so good inside. This engine's very quickly drifting toward parts. So that one's 8mm. And here we have a pair of 10mm. Could be a lot worse. Could be a 10mm and a 7/16, so I'm not going to complain. Some of you guys like to actually see the hands-on, and it's longer than it should be. Make sure it's open right now. That's a little tight. Okay, that's closed. And it too is rappy tappy loose. It looks like I tried to start this thing at some point. I'm not sure if I've been in here. I normally don't leave things loose, especially for an engine that's going to be sitting outside. So let me put this back on. Then I think we'll try a compression test. A few things. To get an accurate compression test, you have to pop the carburetor off, or at least make sure you have full flow through the carburetor. This is one of those vacuum carburetors, so when you hit the throttle, actually, yeah, if you hit the throttle, I guess it does open up. But anyway, you want to make sure. I just disconnected it, right? I know that the engine's getting plenty air on the input, and to loosen the carburetor, you got to get the air cleaner out of the way. So we did all of that. I have a brand new spark plug here. That's a good sign. I put oil in here. Because quite honestly, the starter doesn't sound very good. And the recoil doesn't sound very good. So if I could get any compression ratings out of this thing, I'll be thrilled. But anyway, let's put the gauge on it and see where we're going to go. Here we go. Wish me luck. What is that? Around 80. 80 is close. 80 means that it's obviously a wet 80. I put oil in there. The valves are already loosened, so almost 90. I don't think I'd write this engine off yet. I think it wasn't turning over crazy quick. If it was turning a little quicker, it probably would have crossed 100. I think this engine probably is savable. Do remember, sometimes they'll start and run for a little while and the compression actually improves. The rings kind of reseat and all that other stuff. There's obviously oil in the cylinder, but I didn't put any more oil than that. So I might have only oiled up kind of the top ring. The second one and the oil rings may not be helping as much with compression as they could be. So I think this engine's savable. I don't want to write it off just yet, but it does need those starter gears, and that's going to be a $200 experience. But let's talk about this thing other than the engine. I have an intact dashboard, a little weather checked, and it looks like the lights are plugged in. For some reason, I do not believe I have the key, but I gotta go sniff around. I do have a throttle, and it does appear to be hooked up. I mentioned this before. It has both CDIs. The wiring actually looks halfway decent, right? It's got the little rubber stoppers there that hold the gas tank on, keep it from chattering. The front wheels are there. The front brakes are done. The tires look like they're done, right? You can see the cracks. It's got a full exhaust system. The Kickstarter looks good. I'm not sure what went on back here. The rear may be good, may not. I just don't recommend taking the wheels off like that and letting it sit around. The boot for the universal joint is a little ugly. The frame looks good, other than a little surface rust and a little moss growing on it. It actually looks pretty good. All right, what I wanted to do is kind of catalog this for my mind and for parts. Once again, this is the second most common engine I have floating around. I have a bunch of 250 ES Big Reds, and I have a bunch of TRX 250. So knowing the condition of this is good. I think the front end's good. Looks like somebody put the tie rod on there. Yeah, it looks like a new tie rod, and the tie rod ends feel tight. Normally they get pretty loosey-goosey. Yeah, it looks pretty decent. I got a little damage to the foot peg here, not too bad. The brake lever's pretty good. The front of it's not all torn up either, right? And there is the tail. All right. You know, it's hard to find them even in this condition, missing parts and so forth. It's hard to find these for for less than 500, right? Everybody thinks all this stuff is crazy valuable. I'm not sure one could get this running again by the time you buy the tail parts and the starter gears and a battery and God knows what else it needs, right? Probably a key switch. I don't think I have the key. I don't think I ever have. This is wonderful for parts, right? I mean, you just got a whole crazy load of hardware, right? I don't know how much of that stuff you guys have bought. The flange bolts are a little hard to find. A lot of times you can find them longer than but fully threaded, then you could just cut them to size. Anyhow, all right, I've made mental notes to where this thing is, and now I have a video telling me what kind of condition this thing is in. If I have some extra time, maybe I'll go through the trouble of trying to do a start on it. Wouldn't take much, right? I guess I just have to put my make-believe carburetor on it and my make-believe CDI box. At some point I must have tried, though. That looks like me. I probably tried to give it a start, maybe with starting fluid, and it didn't, and I walked away. That's my guess. Anyhow, I want to thank you all for dropping by to watch and comment and subscribe. Please remember, feet down, heads up, and make sure you get out and enjoy each and every day. Bye now.